I try to make decisions that are good for the town, first and foremost. And you mentioned the town hall, that's one of them. You know, there's a difference of opinion probably among people in town about where that town hall ought to be, how big it ought to be, what the nature of it ought to be. And there's been a lot of disinformation and misinformation that's been put out over the past few weeks, and it's disheartening to a great extent that that happens. But I had an opportunity at our commissioners meeting last night to make some statements and hopefully clear up some of the misunderstandings. Recently in the paper it's been stated that this commission is rushing into the approval of the Fremont Street site. I find it hard to believe that you can rush into a decision that's taken almost 3 years. So last night, for example, I said that, look, we have looked at many, many sites, including the site that's somewhat contentious across the way here, the old skateboard park. We looked at that one, we looked at this one, we've looked at Fremont, we looked at leasing space from Bob Hockaday's new Acme building. We looked at another site outside of town, or not outside of town, south side of town. So we've done spreadsheets, we've done cost analysis, we've taken field trips, we've looked at it from land cost, building cost, accessibility, parking. We have looked at this every which way but loose. And I finally came to the conclusion, as well as all the other commissioners, that Fremont was the right site. So on August 8th, everybody voted for Fremont. So that's how we got here. The misinformation part is when I read that there's inadequate parking here and that this site over here would be better. There's 175 public parking spaces within 500 feet of the Fremont location. That's enormous. Issues about cost. It was in the paper that a two-story building, which would be required on Fremont, is hundreds of thousands of dollars more money to build than a one-story building potentially on this Mill Street site. The reality is they're the same price. And the reason is that the second story of a two-story building is 30% cheaper to build than the first story is, because you share the foundation and you share the roof. Even if you add the elevator and the stairwells back in, it comes out the same. So that's an absolute false statement. So emergency access. There was a comment that emergency access would be a serious problem on Fremont. Well, compared to this site. This road, Mill Street, is 20 feet wide. Fremont is 32 feet wide. Completely false. I mean, there's challenges, but we're a small, older town. There's challenges everywhere. Yeah. I think the biggest one that really bothered me the most was, and it was said again last night 3 times, that when the commissioners voted for Fremont, they were unaware of the fact that this Mill Street lot was buildable, because they were under the impression that it was filled with underground pipes that were going to be difficult to move and so forth and so on. And it was basically an unbuildable lot. And when the vote was taken, they didn't know that. Well, that is totally not true. 3 weeks before that vote, every commissioner received an email from Gene, from Ray Clark, the county engineer, stating that it was fully buildable and that was not an issue. It could potentially be expensive, but they would help mitigate the cost. So the commissioners were fully aware of that. So there was another quote in the paper recently that said, if we built this municipal complex over here with a combination police station and town hall, it would be a landmark in the town overlooking beautiful Hollis Park and the harbor. It would be a handsome building. I think that'd be great, but for what? 7 people work here Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And then we have occasional meetings for committees and commissions. I mean, that's not my view of what government buildings should be. It should be an administrative building, no bigger or smaller than it needs to be. It should not be ridiculously expensive. It ought to be functional and quality, and it ought to be as energy efficient as we can make it, while keeping it viable. So just a difference of opinion, I think. So I respect people's opinions. I disagree with them sometimes. But you know what the bottom line is? Somebody said to me in a meeting one time, you know what, Bill, you're just not listening to us. And the answer is, because I disagree with you doesn't mean I'm not listening to you. I listen to everybody. We have weighed everything that we could weigh. This is a difference of opinion, I think. I just firmly believe this, Dave. That site is a rare opportunity for St. Michael's to build a really nice, affordable, properly sized, and properly located town hall. I intend to do everything that I can to get this town hall built on Fremont. We're underway. The engineers are out there now. They've done soil samples where they're about to actually design the building. The next meeting we have will be an actual rendering, a 3D rendering of their proposal. So we're moving.